Getting started with enterprise beans. This chapter shows how to develop, deploy, and run a simple Java EE application named Converter. The purpose of Converter is to calculate currency conversions between Japanese yen and euro dollars. The Converter application consists of an enterprise bean, which performs the calculations, and a web client. Here's an overview of the steps you'll follow in this chapter. Create the enterprise bean, Converter bean. Create the web client. Deploy Converter onto the server. Using a browser, run the web client. Before proceeding, make sure that you've done the following. Read Chapter 1, Overview. Become familiar with Enterprise Beans. See Chapter 22, Enterprise Beans. Started the server. See starting and stopping the Glassfish server. The following topics are addressed here. Creating the Enterprise Bean. Modifying the Java EE application. Creating the Enterprise Bean. The enterprise bean in our example is a stateless session bean called Converter bean. The source code for Converter bean is in the tut install. Examples: EJB, Converter, SRC, Java, Directory. Creating Converter bean requires these steps. Coding the bean's implementation class. The source code is provided. Compiling the source code. Coding the enterprise bean class. The enterprise bean class for this example is called Converter bean. This class implements two business methods: dollar to yen and yen to euro. Because the enterprise bean class doesn't implement a business interface, the enterprise bean exposes a local, no interface view. The public methods in the enterprise bean class are available to clients that obtain a reference to Converter bean. The source code for the Converter bean class is as follows: package com, sun, tutorial, javae, EJB, import Java, math, big decimal, import JAVX, EJB, stateless public class Converter bean private big decimal yen rate equal new big decimal 830602, private big decimal euro rate equal new big decimal 0.00930016. Public big decimal dollar to yen big decimal dollars big decimal result equal dollars. Multiply yen rate. Return result. Set scale to big decimal. Round up. Public big decimal yen to euro big decimal yen big decimal result equal yen. Multiply euro rate. Return result. Set scale to big decimal. Round up. Note the stateless annotation decorating the enterprise bean class. This annotation lets the container know that Converter bean is a stateless session bean. Creating the Converter web client. The web client is contained in the following Servlet class, tut install. Examples: EJB, Converter, SRC, Java, Converter, Web, Converter Servlet, Java. A Java servlet is a web component that responds to HTTP requests. The Converter Servlet class uses dependency injection to obtain a reference to Converter bean. The JAVX, EJB annotation is added to the declaration of the private member variable Converter bean, which is of type Converter bean. Converter bean exposes a local, no interface view, so the enterprise bean implementation class is the variable type. Web Servlet public class Converter Servlet extends HTTP Servlet. EJB Converter bean. When the user enters an amount to be converted to yen and euro, the amount is retrieved from the request parameters. Then the Converter bean, dollar to yen and the Converter bean, yen to euro methods are called. Try string amount equal request. Get parameter amount. If amount equal null amount. Length 0. Convert the amount to a big decimal from the request parameter big decimal the equal new big decimal amount. Call the Converter bean dollar to yen method to get the amount in yen big decimal yen amount equal converter dollar to yen d. Call the Converter bean yen to euro method to get the amount in euros big decimal euro amount equal converter yen to euro yen amount. The results are displayed to the user. Building, packaging, deploying, and running the Converter example. Now you are ready to compile the Enterprise Bean class converter Bean. Java and the Servlet class converter Servlet. Java and to package the compiled classes into a WAR file. To build, package, and deploy the converter example in NetBeans IDE. From the File menu, choose Open Project. In the Open Project dialog, navigate to Tut Install. Examples. EJB. Select the converter folder. Select the Open as Main Project and Open Required Projects checkboxes. Click Open Project. In the Projects tab, right-click the converter project and select Deploy. A web browser window opens the URL http localhost 8080 converter. To build, package, and deploy the converter example using it. In a terminal window, go to Tut Install. Examples. EJB. Converter. Type the following command, and all this command calls the default task, which compiles the source files for the Enterprise Bean and the Servlet, placing the class files in the build subdirectory, not the src directory of the project. The default task packages the project into a WAR module. Converter. For more information about the int tool, see building the examples. Note, when compiling the code, the int task includes the Java EOP jar files in the class path. These jars reside in the modules directory of your Glassfish server installation. If you plan to use other tools to compile the source code for Java EE components, make sure that the class path includes the Java EOP jar files. To run the converter example, open a web browser to the following URL, http localhost 8080 converter. The screen shown in Figure 23-1 appears. Figure 23-1 the converter web client. Type 100 in the input field and click Submit. A second page appears, showing the converted values. Modifying the Java EE application. The Glassfish server supports iterative development. Whenever you make a change to a Java EE application, you must redeploy the application. To modify a class file. To modify a class file in an Enterprise Bean, you change the source code, recompile it, and redeploy the application. For example, to update the exchange rate in the $ to yen business method of the converter Bean class, you would follow these steps. To modify converter Servlet, the procedure is the same. Edit converter Bean. Java and save the file. Recompile the source file. To recompile converter Bean. Java in NetBeans IDE, right-click the converter project and select Run. This recompiles the converter Bean. Java file replaces the old class file in the build directory and redeploys the application to Glassfish server. Recompile converter Bean. Java using int. In a terminal window, go to the Tut Install. Examples. EJB. Converter. Subdirectory. Type the following command, and all this command repackages, deploys, and runs the application.